Hey everyone, this is Adam Perry with TrueDFS, and I am going to go over tonight's 12-game NHL DFS slate. We're lucky to have 12 games, I guess, which is better than the normal 2 and 3 game slates that we get on Mondays and Wednesdays now with the crazy NHL scheduling. So it's a big slate. I wish it were a little bit smaller and the slates were evened out. But this is what we got. This is what we had on Tuesday. And so I'm going to go over things. And if you like what you see here, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll say that off the jump because there's a lot of good content that comes out on this channel. We've got Bobby Fi going over NBA, often with Sheets, and Bobby and Kenny going over PGA, DFS, and really any sport. And you could join us in our premium Discord and get more content behind the paywall. If you check out TrueDFS.com, you can see the different packages and you can get access to SaberSim through us for a great price that gets you not only SaberSim, but Sheets' projections that he takes down all the money with, I think, 3 times a week. So don't forget to think about that as we go through. What I'm going to do, since it's really early in the day, I just want to do, we were running experiments before the break in NHL to see how the ROIs going into the slates differed from 5-man stacks and 4-man stacks. And if we run like 5,000 lineups with 4-man stacks and 5-man stacks allowed in SaberSim, then we tended to see a mix of the onslaughts and the traditional 4-3s and 4-2-2s in our top 10 of the ROI. But when we ran just the onslaughts and we got a big pool of onslaught stacks, we started seeing that the peak ROI was a little bit better for the onslaughts. And I found that to be well reflected in my post-contest results too. So I remain, even after learning that there's a lot of value in the even strength lines and that SaberSim kind of adjusted that for that stacking those onslaughts with the power play really does grade out well before the slate going in with what we expect people to do and after the slate with our results. So we ran that experiment a couple times. I don't think that's really enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it again. So I'm going to build once, allowing any kind of NHL stack you could get, and we'll see what our ROIs look like and what the best lineups are for the contest that I play. And then we'll run it again with only onslaughts and see if we can increase the ceiling ROI. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I tend to play, I tend to not MME in hockey. I tend to play the smaller field stuff. So I'm going to have that in mind. I play the high stakes, smaller field. So when I use ownership, I want to use ownership that reflects that I play the 222. So that's like a 5 max. So I'm going to use different ownership and then build. And our first one should be pretty quick because we're not putting any constraints on the builder. I'll set up this sim. If you're new to contest sims, basically what we're doing is we're putting a bunch of lineups into this field and saying, whoop, that's the wrong one, this one. And we're saying if our opponents, these other 166 lineups, played what we think they're going to play, then this is how our lineups would do against them if we played it out thousands and thousands of times. So let's queue that up. Let's queue up the build. We'll do this different ways. Right now it's pretty early and we don't have Sheets' projections. We don't have Goldie's up yet. So, we could do a hand build that way too, see who's looking as the best value scores and make a nice hand build using their projection. So there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. The other thing, you could kind of eyeball it and see who you think you're going to get. But some of these, kind of projection update, some of these high projected team totals are probably going to be high owned. I mean, I'm just looking at it when I know it's hard to imagine that that Montreal is not high owned with a 3.6 total. They're usually pretty cheap. So I imagine you could get in their top line or their power play and throw Liney in there, Patrick Liney, and get a really cheap, high projected team. And that might be good, as you go get smaller and smaller in your field. But I imagine it's going to really grab some ownership. So let's see, this is going a little slow. Might be going a little slow because I have my camera on and I'm streaming. But normally, we're quick as can be with the SaberSim lineups. Give it another minute. If there's an issue, we'll rebuild. Yeah, I mean, Florida. I played Florida a couple nights ago, and they were like totally unowned. So I was happy to see that. And I had a really nice line, and it graded well in the post-contest sims, but all I got were those Sklansky bucks. I think SaberSim was, one thing you see is SaberSim will like recommend a team is like, you got to play this team in your top 20 or your top 30 lineups or all this one team. You'll sometimes see that in the small field, and it's like, I'm going to rebuild because I don't know why it's stuck. Because you sometimes see in the small field, it'll clump into one team. And the fear I always have, and I think this bears out, it's anecdotal, but that when SaberSim is recommending one team so hard, you end up getting a lot of the field playing it more than what SaberSim predicted, because we're not the only SaberSim users. This is a really popular, great product. And that's also one of the benefits of using like Sheets' Goldie projections on top of it, is you get the really sharp projections, especially when you see Sheets playing, how much he wins. And you get a whole different kind of set of lineups, but still using the play-by-play sims of SaberSim. So here we're at 5,000 almost. I'm going a little better. Here we go. All right. Then we're going to run the sim. And it's running. There we go. So just like that, we've run 10,000 simulations on our 5,000 lineups, simulating how it would look in that small field contest. And let's sort our lineups by ROI and see what the top. Let's see what the top 10 look like. So a lot of Florida, a lot of Detroit. Let's see what kind of stacks. Onslaught still. So, 9.1% of our field are 5-2s, 4.2 are 5-mans. We've got 15.2 that are 4-2s. And you still only get them jumping to the top 10 20% of the time. We've got 4-mans at a pretty high clip, 4-2s. We've got 12% 4-3s, way more. Okay, we have way more 4-mans than onslaughts. But we can still see that our onslaughts are going to grade much higher. So let's see what teams we get. Get that Florida Montreal. I apologize for the background noise. If you hear my kid crying, we got it taken care of though. Florida, there's the Montreal. Not surprising. I mean, I imagine they're going to be owned, but they may just project too well for the price that you still get them. But the fact that people aren't willing to play these onslaughts. Yeah, the Detroit came up as the 4-mans. And then you get a whole variety of 2s with your 5-mans and your 4-man Detroits. I imagine because people don't want to play the 5-mans or even the 6-mans, that's one way to get a little bit different with Montreal than what the field's going to do. But we'll see. This is a real early look too. Then you get more of that Florida. I don't know if I should be afraid after they let me down the other night, but it makes sense to me. You could get that 5-man power play in, pretty well because they have Ekblad at D, who's not too priced up, and they've got Samoskevich on line 2, who's priced down as well. So you get the full correlation on Florida's top line. So that makes sense to me. Let's see what these ROIs look like. So our top graded ROI, 151.9, that's assuming we know perfectly what the field's going to do. We, of course, don't, but that is a high ROI. And look what you get with them. You still get the correlated Carolina thing. Orlov's pretty solid. Kakanemi will correlate with him a bit. They should skate together on even strength. And then you have Brendan Point, who has a lot of upside. We got a projection update. SaberSim's changing throughout the day, so this is the type of thing we'll do right before lock. And here you get more of these Floridas, the 5-2. You get Connor Bedard with the high upside. There's a lot you could do with Florida tonight. Here's one of those Detroit 4-mans. Let's see from the 151 ROI. Let's see if we went down 122. You're within your rights to go down in ROI because there's some variance in the ROI as well. If we run this again, let's say we run a sim again. Let's see. This came out as graded as 151% ROI with perfect information, and early in the day, we can't expect to actually have that in reality. But let's see just some of the sim variance if we run this simulation again, what the ROI comes out to. So it's going to be positive, but I don't think we're going to bink that often in the contest that we get to such a high grade. So let's see. $139, still pretty damn good, I'd say. And it still ranks as our top lineup. I think, let's see, if we've been 18, yeah. So, this is a pretty good one right now. The one thing I'd be afraid of, and I mentioned this earlier, if, now we have 18 lineups in here and 62% are Florida, it's something to worry about a little bit. There's a lot of SaberSim users, and we're not changing our lineups right now with Sheets and Goldie stuff. So we're doing what everyone else using SaberSim is doing. And sometimes when it coalesces real strong on someone, like the other night it was Tampa, they get a little bit higher owned than it was expected. So, but there we go. I think you're well within your rights to play any of these. Now, what would happen? Let's see if we could bump the ROI by getting rid of all this other stuff and just getting those high-graded onslaughts. And that'll just give us way more in the pool to choose from, and way more of those that could potentially be high ROI. So let's see if we can build just onslaughts. Let's see if we grade higher than that 159 ROI. And that's pretty tough to do, but let's give it a try. So let's rebuild now with just those. And because we're constraining it and we're telling it just build certain kind of lineups, sometimes it doesn't get to the 5,000. It'll be a little bit slower, but this is what I like to do. I prefer to play the onslaughts. I like the way they grade out. I think you get more of an outlier opportunity, and you get more of a floor than I think people expect you're going to get. Because, for me, I'm playing against 166 other people. I don't have to hit the nuts, right? So if one of my guys picks up just a couple shots, but the other 4 guys do well, I'm okay with that. And with the 5-mans and the 6-mans, it's kind of like that thing in MLB. We just have to get less things right. And so I want to get one thing right and have less to do with picking the rest of my lineup. So we can see how slow it is when we constrain it like this. So, I build about 10, 15 minutes before lock, depending on the news. And I would recommend the same thing. I want to let this go as long as possible to get to 5,000 when I normally do it. But I don't think we need to do that for the sake of this video. I mean, we had probably about 1,000 onslaughts in our last pool. So let's at least double it. Let's get to 2K, 3K lineups and see if we can't get some more outlier ROIs. And then that's kind of the experiment. So what does that say about the 5-mans? I mean, they're already grading well against the 4s. And if we could get those outlier ROIs with them, I think it proves that at least if you believe in SaberSim, that those are the kind of the nut stack of how you want to play these. Things change. Slates change, pricing changes, they get smaller, but on these 12-team slates too, we're more and more looking for outliers. We have 3,000 lineups. I mean, I think we could just go ahead and stop. If again, if we were doing this before lock, I'd let it go to the full 5K, but for the purposes of our experiment, I think we're fine. Let's run the sims now against this pool of onslaught stacks to see how we do. All right, sims are run. Let's sort it by that contest ROI. Here we're back to Florida with Sorokin paired with Duclair a little bit, and you get Rasmus Sandin. This is a 6-man. 180. Boom. Let's see what our top 10 are like. Oh, top 20. Fine. 135. Let's see how far we could go down to get to that 159. Oh. 143. I mean, right here, we're getting almost into the 150s in our top 10 and top 3. I mean, I think this says something. I think this says the more onslaughts you have, the more you get some outlier ROIs. And I think that's reflected in the post-contest sims. So that's always been my recommendation. It's always been my intuition. SaberSim liked that. And then, SaberSim is always improving. And what they did was they looked at it and they said, well, there is more even strength scoring than we thought. And that's increased in the NHL over the years. And so their model now gave a slight increase to even strength scoring. But even with that, you still see the onslaughts working. I mean, one of the reasons, too, let's be clear about it, is you're still getting even strength correlation. I mean, you got Bennett and Samoskevich here. Barkov is going to correlate with Verhaeghe. Ekblad's going to be, the main D guy on the power play, being the power play quarterback, but he's also going to correlate on even strength with these other guys and should skate with them. And then you got Reinhardt. So you still get the even strength 1. And then you throw a couple other guys. I mean, Samoskevich is going to correlate on the power play, but then you get the Bennett correlation, which I wish I had because he scored a goal the last time I played Florida and I didn't have him. I just had the straight power play. So something to think about. I think that the experiment shows once again that SaberSim, if you trust it, then you then trust in the onslaught. So that's all for today. If you want to get access to the full SaberSim package, you could do that at TrueDFS.com, and that'll also give you access to premium Discord, where before lock, we're not only doing shows in NBA, but I'm going to be in Discord answering questions, not just written, but I'll be in the voice channel talking, chopping it up. We talk about DFS, we talk about NHL in general, talk about life. So come and join us and like and subscribe here. There's a lot of great improvements to the site. So we are looking forward to having you. And that's all. Good luck on tonight's slate.